Welcome to episode 19 of Timely Topics. In this Ideas to Impact episode, I sit down with Rachel Lenda, the Director of Tourism for the state of Connecticut. In our conversation, Rachel and I discuss her role in driving tourism to the state of Connecticut, and we also highlight the launch of CCEI's brand new BUILD Hartford Fellowship program that is supported by the state's Department of Economic and Community Development. And of course, with summer finally here in Connecticut, Rachel and I dig into some of the events and activities taking place all throughout the state of Connecticut this summer and share our thoughts on some can't miss moments. Let's get this conversation started. Hi, everyone. I am so excited for this episode's guest. I'm here today with Rachel Lenda, the state of Connecticut's Director of Tourism. How exciting is that? Welcome to the show, Rachel.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. It's nice to see you.
All right, let's dive right in because we have a million things to talk about and I can't wait. But let's start with what is probably the burning question on most of our listeners' mind. Mm-hmm. What exactly does the Director of Tourism do on a daily basis?
Well, I'm the Director of Fun, so I'm all things fun. So in our model of how we market the state of Connecticut, we go for a strategy of live, work, play. Okay. So, and how we think about that is when you travel, and I know that you don't really travel because your backyard is your travel.
Sure.
However, when you do travel, right, say you go to Hawaii and you absolutely love it there and you're having the best time of your life, how many times have you gone onto like the Realtor app and seeing what sort of real estate is available, or going to Indeed to see what jobs are available, right? You almost start to picture yourself living there and being a resident. So we take that philosophy and we turn that into a strategic model of live, work, and play. Tourism is the tip of the iceberg. Tourism is how people come to Connecticut and dip their big toe in the pool. Because once they're here and they see the grandeur and the beautifulness of the topography, the geography, the people, the elements, the arts, the culture, the sports, the everything that is our life here, then they fall in love with it and can picture themselves living here.
That's so cool.
So we use tourism as a tip of the spear to, it's like the gateway, right? We're just trying to get them into the state. So that is, so that's the philosophy. So what I do on a day-to-day basis is I market Connecticut as a great place to visit for not only an international or a national person coming in, but also a local person, because at least 42 to 44% of people coming into Connecticut are in fact Connecticut residents.
Right.
So it's important to understand who the market is and how we can tailor our messaging. And on top of that, we have a budget that we deploy advertisements, campaigns, different, if you saw the pizza signs and the highway signs, all of that chaotic, stunting that we're doing and toying with the state of New York and New Jersey right now with pizza. All of that is to talk about Connecticut in such a different way than Connecticut has been talked about for a long time.
Let's talk about that for a second. We appreciate that as natives of Connecticut, as those of us living, working, and playing here right now. We've got something to be proud of. We've got something to talk about. We're in the news. That's exciting for us. And so, job well done. We want to make sure that Connecticut is known to the world as more than just being between Boston and New York.
Amen.
We had Dennis House on the show a little while back, and it was a really great, fun interview with him. And we just talked about his passion and love for Connecticut. And he talked about just feeling like you're always a part of the community, right? I think that that's what's so special. And I think that we've started to now see that community come forward in tangible campaigns that you guys have put together. So job well done. I want to ask you a follow-up question about what you're doing, because to me, it seems like it would be quite challenging on a day-to-day basis. It's like, who are your constituencies? And so let's talk about this. Like, is it the international visitor where you want to try to put Connecticut on the map so when they are driving from Boston to New York, they stop with purpose? Is it your locals and getting them to experience things that maybe they're overlooking to go to somewhere else? Is it our policymakers to show them that this is such a great place that we need to continue to invest it? Or is it us, the people that live, work, and play here all the time, and you want to make sure that we're bringing more capital dollars into the state? How do you balance that?
So I love that question, because immediately when you asked that, my mind went to money. And, overall, we're in a very saturated market with advertisements, right? When you're on social media, when you're watching TV, or if you're streaming, you're constantly being faced with some brand, some logo, something that's trying to affect emotion from you and a connection with their brand. So We're no different for the state of Connecticut. However, understanding that with the budget that we do have, we have to be very strategic in the money that we spend on that advertisement and what those advertisements look like. So who, where, and we use data too, right? So we're using things like Arrivalist, which is a geofencing software tracking data platform that uses your cell phone as a pinging, right? But you have to be over the age of 18 and a domestic traveler. It doesn't track underage people or anybody international.
Okay.
So understanding that and using that information, we're able to gauge who is interested in coming into Connecticut. And the top markets for Connecticut are Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and sometimes Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And if we're looking at tertiary or secondary markets, we're looking at Georgia, we're looking at Florida, sometimes it's one of the Carolinas. And I think a lot of that has to do with the new direct flights that are coming in and out of Bradley and Tweed, which are making a big difference because we need to keep those planes full in and out of the state. So who we're focusing on is looking at the resources that we have, right? We would rather do 2 things exceptionally well than 5 things mediocre. Mm-hmm. So right now, understanding with the money that we have, I'm going to focusing on a couple of markets very, very well versus trying to blanket stroke everything and doing it haphazardly.
Everything that you just said is so applicable, not just to the work that you do, but here at CCEI, right? We're coaching businesses, we're supporting startups. You made me think of Jack Welch, right? And his philosophy at GE. If we're not 1 and 2, then we're not going to do it anymore. That was right out of the playbook there and looking at some of GE's success. So that's really exciting and so many great nuggets there for any of our listeners that are in the business space because you're operating like a business. You're thinking money first. We've got to be really tactical and strategic with the investments that we've been provided.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. So let's go in this direction, one step forward. So what does success look like? And talk to us a little bit about maybe even potentially going beyond just the money and the revenue, but like what does success look like for you on a day-to-day or a week-to-week basis when you feel like you're going home at night and you're like, that was a great week?
Absolutely. So I divide success into 2 buckets. The first bucket is sentiment. And the second bucket is tangible, like return on investment, the actual ROI that we can see after the dollar that we spend. So sentiment to me is wildly important, especially in the tourism industry, because we're part of somebody's human experience, right? You know, when I think about my childhood and where I traveled and I ventured, I think about going to Cape May, New Jersey with my entire family and staying in a Victorian place. And it wasn't necessarily maybe Cape May, although Cape May was the vehicle, but it was my time with my family there and being 12 and being on the, Cinderella's tower on the 19th floor of this big Victorian house. And I think those are the same sort of emotions that we're looking to capture with people is, when they come into Connecticut and they hike at Bluff Point and they're connected to the ocean and the forest and they see this amazing vista, or when they're at the Wadsworth right here in Hartford and they see a piece of art that completely moves them, or they go to the Goodspeed Opera House and they see, a play for the first time that will eventually make it to Broadway. I mean, those are moments in somebody's life that make it beyond just grinding and going to work every day. I mean, I don't know about you. I need more. I need a lot more. So those are sort of the successes. So thinking about the sentiment success. Also, the other sentiment success is the conversation about Connecticut. If you had to guess what the 2 monikers that people have labeled Connecticut as for a long time, and it's not positive, what would you guess? Oh,
no. I think I've seen this. I mean, we're now, stuff is showing up on my Instagram that's not nice, and they're not nice things about Connecticut, like being too suburban oriented. I think I saw like a Stepford Wives thing or something along those lines.
Okay.
But it wasn't great. I didn't like it.
So it's taxes and traffic.
Okay, perfect.
Right?
Awesome.
One of the highest states for taxes, and the traffic is atrocious. However, with last year, we had 15.4 billion earned media impressions. The prior year, we had 4.2 billion.
Wow.
Imagine that increase, right? And so when we talk about earned media impressions too, just as anecdotally a side note,
Yeah, please.
these are stories that we pitch to media. These are stories like the Christmas movie trail or the pizza trail that are getting picked up by Stephen Colbert, or Yahoo News picks it up and it becomes, almost like the syndicated article that's hitting all sorts of places all over the country.
Yeah.
That's earned media. That doesn't count the number of impressions that we get from the money buy of advertising that we get. So earned media impressions is a really cool measurement of tool. So thinking about going from 4.2 billion earned media impressions to 15.4, that doesn't mean 15.4 billion people are seeing, right? It could be me or you seeing something 500 times, but we're seeing Connecticut and its messaging in such a different light, right? So let's think about baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Yankees, Red Sox.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? It's baseball. But you know what? That rivalry keeps baseball alive. It keeps Yankee Stadium packed. It keeps Fenway Park packed.
Yep.
It keeps people being season ticket holders and carry on the legacy of baseball. But when we look at Connecticut and the tactics that we're taking, like pizza, because we're the pizza capital of the United States.
Sure are.
And according to Dave Portnoy, we're pizza capital of the world, which no big deal. That's a humble flex. So when we're thinking about how we're narrating the conversation, is we're injecting far more positive stories about Connecticut, that the quality of life here is amazing.
Yeah.
And the experiences that you can have is incredible because it's such a small state. You can go east to west in 2.5 hours. You can go from the shores to the mountains. You can get to world-class gaming facilities. You can come to and fly in and out of some of the top airports in the country with ease of travel and travel internationally.
Right.
We've got it all. We've got a great rail system here, bus or public transportation. So I think that Connecticut and its measurement of sentiment is we're changing that. And then when we get to the hard stuff, the nitty gritty is that Connecticut's tourism economy in 2023, we haven't gotten 24's numbers yet. It was an $18.5 billion economic output that employs 124,000 people, collects between 1.1 and 1.2 billion in state and local taxes.
Wow.
Right? So imagine the energy and the chutzpah behind taking not only our marketing dollars, but our partners' marketing dollars, everybody who's working together.
Right.
Rising tides lift all boats.
Right.
So it's important for us to share our messaging with our constituents, like our lodging inn owners or our attraction owners or people, restaurateurs, people that are in it to win it for the tourism industry.
It must be a really exciting opportunity. You have a background, coming from such a fun array of hospitality spaces and being able to kind of pull inspiration from everything that you've done in the past to now really serving as a center point. And I'm wondering, do you see yourself as a mirror holding up to the various constituencies in the state to say, this is who we are? Because in order for you to be successful, you do need to create some universal appeal. You have to create some universal stories that not just pizza shops can get excited about, right? But the ballparks can get excited about, the zoo can get excited about. What would you describe as being the most common narrative that you would love for every business owner in the state of Connecticut, for every resident in the state of Connecticut, for every student coming into our schools to leave or to want to say, what is that common story that really unifies us? And have you thought about how you have to pull that together to create that story that everybody's, again, working in the same space, they're all working together to try to create this narrative for Connecticut?
Right. So first, I think that's a really big question. And I think there are a lot of different ways that, the Office of Statewide Marketing and Tourism, which I work for, could answer that. But my gut always tells me that the stories begin with the people. Mm-hmm. And it's the people of Connecticut who truly make the experience. And I tell everybody, you're in the business of tourism. If you're a gas station attendant, if you're a bank teller, if you're, a walk-in medical clinic, at some point you are going to have FaceTime with somebody who is not from around here. And whatever that impression is, right? If you only have one chance to make a good impression, carpe diem, baby, and be warm and welcoming, because that could in return, it's sort of like a karma, just be good to the people and the people will be good to you. So the message that I give our business owners and our constituency is, one, the tactics that they can participate in, right? So if you're a tourism entity in Connecticut, I'm going to use Hartford Yard Goats, for example, because we're right here in Hartford.
Yeah.
Hartford Yard Goats, they post their events on CT Visit. We capture social media content, and we're showing people. We're not telling them. Showing people in a marketing aspect would be putting up a flyer, graphically designed flyer. How many social media feeds do you go on Instagram and do you see it's like advertisement, advertisement, advertisement?
Yeah.
Versus going in and filming the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Filming, listen to me. I'm an elder millennial. Recording, taping, I don't know. But you're using your phone as the tool to go in and capture the sentiment of the happiness and the joy. So when somebody sees it, they're like, I want to be there. I want to experience that. That looks like fun. So that is our tactic in sharing how we market. So if I'm going to choose to market that way, which according to trends, data, and everything tells me that that is the way of the future, I want to use that as leverage with my constituents to say, here's what's working for us. We have seen measurable growth in our number of followers that we've had, our reach, boosting posts and things like that. I encourage you to follow this model because it's working, and it's basically free advice, right? Well, it's not free. It's their tax dollars hard at work, but it's them listening and saying, hey, what's working for you? So if we're all doing this sort of same tactic, and then we can cross promote each other, right? I can take Lyman Orchard's social media posts and put it up on CT Visit, and it's going to be a symbiotic relationship because they're also showing and not telling. And I also know that when people are traveling now, they're using Google less and less, and they're using Instagram and TikTok to search for point of view experiences. And that's the new trend. So it's, and it's also putting on a sole proprietor hat when I'm talking to these people, because typically, right, it's a mom and pop facility. They are working 13, 14 hours a day. They're going, if it's a restaurateur, they're going from ordering product to staffing to, maybe marketing. Whatever tactic I give them has to be succinct, and it has to give them a return on investment of their time. I always say it doesn't cost you a dime to work with us, but it does cost you time. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to invest time, because time is one of the hottest commodities that we have, pick working with CT Visit in our social, because we can lift on such a greater scale. And you see this budget at work, and you see your tax dollars working, because when you invest in tourism funding, for every 10% that the tourism industry grows, there is a residual 2.5% to other industries that are growing around them. So it's really holistically helping everybody as a whole, which is why it's so critical for us to think about it that way.
Yeah, you said so many great things there that I'd love to come back to. I want to come back to what for me is personal and poignant, and that is that it starts with the people, and it starts one story at a time. So, Rachel, as you know, we have been working with a program here called BUILD Hartford at CCEI. And we took it in a direction about 1.5 years ago that we really wanted to focus on Hartford's hospitality space. And the reason why is because when we think about the students that were enrolling in the program, they were coming into the city, and what do? You want to experience it. You want to go out and taste the city, and you want to see it, and you want to take pictures, and you want to go to a show. And we thought, well, this is a tremendous opportunity for us to hone the business communication skills of the students coming through the program, but also lift up our community. And so our tagline has been one student, one story at a time. And with very great excitement coming forward to you, we are excited to announce, the launch of the BUILD Hartford Fellowship program. And it's thanks to the support from your offices that those fellowship dollars have been provided. And we're now going to have student fellows serving as ambassadors in many regards, one story at a time, going out and profiling Hartford in particular as our state capital, and telling those stories. And so I'm really excited to have that announcement, to have you on here to be part of that, because we're kicking things off this summer.
Yes.
And we're going to be going all over Hartford. We've got a packed event calendar. You want to talk a little bit about kind of why that was so exciting for you, and I think exciting for your entire office to create this partnership?
Absolutely. So the first thing that I think is so delicious about this program is that it focuses on the Gen Z. And I think that this generation is is amazing. You know, I'm looking at Abby over here, who's one of our fellows, and I'm so excited for her to experience this fellowship because she's going to sort of check the boxes theoretically from what data and stories tell me of what you like to see when you travel. And that is, I want to experience community. I want to experience culture and diversity. I want to be in a place that accepts diversity. I want to be in a place that where I can be cost conscious. And I think that you can do all of these things and more right here in Hartford from the perspective of a young person, because I think, and I don't know if you felt this way. So I'm born and raised in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And when I graduated, you know, I didn't go to college right away. I started working in the industry right away. But I always had this fantasy of just leaving and then maybe coming back, and, you know, but I always stayed. I'm true native through and through.
Yep.
I've traveled, but haven't moved anywhere else. But now that I think about it, I didn't want to leave because deep down I knew that Connecticut had everything that I needed to have a good life.
Yeah.
And that's what I want this next generation to see, is that they can build the most beautiful life here in Connecticut, and they don't need to travel to Boston or New York, right?
Yeah.
They're smack dab. I also think too, in the sort of climate of the workforce now, there's so many jobs that are remote, right? You could work anywhere.
Yeah.
And we know that site selectors are now looking at quality of life as one of their top selectors when they're thinking about maybe moving their headquarters, but they're also looking at the pool of people that they can choose from.
Right.
So young people, they don't have to move away. Connecticut has the life that we're one of the top states in the country for public health, for public safety, and for education. So you're around like-minded people, which I think this particular generation is looking for. They're looking for like-minded people who follow their values and dreams and hopes and aspirations. You're only as strong as the team you surround yourself with, right? So that's what I'm excited about with BUILD Hartford, is that they're going to take our capital city, which, you know, the mayor and his team have done a tremendous job branding Hartford as a really great place to go. I mean, we've got Capitol Groove Fest coming up. It's, you know, Bushnell Park always has stuff going on. So I'm excited to see from what lens they record from what stories are important to them that they connect with as human beings in their age group, which gives us insight in how to market and tailor the messaging, right?
Yeah, 100%. We're going to get into some of those summer events before we wrap up this conversation, but I really would like to emphasize something that's so critical. Here we are at the University of Connecticut at CCEI today. To me, the program represents the ultimate forward-thinking synergy in where higher education really can go. We are talking about providing students an applied learning environment that is supported and sponsored by their state that wants to keep them. You mentioned Abby. She's from New Hampshire. Okay, is this somebody but is this somebody now that gets to go out and have this experience to hone their business communication skills, to do it with purpose? And by the way, go out and support small businesses that are vertically integrated that need the support. I mean, really, I think what we're looking at here is potentially the changing of the guard of how we're going to go forward in higher education to create learning opportunities for students, but also take all of the great skill sets that are in classrooms and let's go get it on the street where it can make a big difference.
Amen. And I do, you know, in talking with employers too, one of the biggest things that I find, you know, one of the hot topics when I go around and have talks with people is sort of this very sheepishness with, you know, social media and this sort of online presence. They understand how valuable it is.
Yeah.
They sort of don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And I think that the generation coming up, like our Abbeys and our Lucases of the world, they are born with this, where that is such a valuable asset and a real world asset that they understand how that technology works, that they could always find themselves employed. Yeah. If they figure out a way to connect with people in different generations, which BUILD Hartford, I think, does a great job.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think one of the things to wrap up this exciting announcement is to say that you're taking the existing skill set And then you're pairing it with the best practices of storytelling. You're actually bringing the forefront of best practices and contemporary communication, all the things that you were just talking about,
Right.
being able to do that in an applied fashion. It's not in a textbook, right? It's not sitting behind a quiz.
No.
It is going out and talking to a business owner and asking them, what are the stories that you want to tell? And we're going to help you tell them. So, of course, I know that you're excited about it. We're going to get a chance to work together. This won't be the last time you hear from us on this, but I want to transition and I want to ask you, with summer upon us finally here.
Yes.
A couple of events, a couple things that you're really excited for that our listeners should maybe, jot down on their calendar that Rachel says across the state of Connecticut. What are we doing? What are you most excited about?
Okay. So first things first is I love listening to music outside. I think that Connecticut has some of the coolest venues statewide to listen to every kind of genre of music, right? So right here in Hartford, we've got, like I said, the Capitol Crew Fest coming up. If you head up to Norfolk, Connecticut, you've got the Yale Repertory Theater up there where you can listen to the most beautiful classical music. Down on the shoreline, right? You could even just hit up some of the places, the local dive bars that have some really great cover bands where you could just get lost in music. So I love that. I love the performances. I also love fairs and festival season. You've got I live in Colchester, and I just saw a little mini pop-up fair that's coming up with rides and stuff. I can't wait to take my 3-year-old to that. You can only do that stuff in the summertime.
Yeah.
But some other businesses that have opened, right? Great Wolf Lodge at Foxwoods Resort Casino is now open.
Okay.
So that is definitely a really fun place. 13 water slides, indoor, outdoor. They've got an adventure park. It's wild. And then so there's a couple of other things too, like Lime Rock Park in Lakeville. So NASCAR is making its return to Lime Rock after 14 years for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series.
Cool.
And that's June 27th and 28th.
That's a big deal.
Quasi Amusement Park and Water Park. They've got some new adventures coming in. They've got 2 new thrilling rides. We've got Connecticut Science Center. They've got the Pixar thing up that is super duper cool. It shows you sort of how Pixar creates these motion pictures. New England Air Museum, they've got the Igor Sikorsky exhibit right now, which is really cool. So, and it's a mix. And then you can't miss your state parks. Connecticut has the most incredible landscape and so many preserved natural spots for you to go. So I'd highly recommend go to Hammonasset, go to Ocean Beach, go to Meriden and check out Hubbard Park and just enjoy yourself.
All right. I hope you got all that. Look, folks, summer is short in Connecticut. We got to get going. We got to get out and enjoy this. So we're going to do rapid fire questions.
I love it.
And then we're going to go out and enjoy our summer.
Cool.
All right, Rachel, all of our guests, 3 rapid fire questions. Have some fun with this one. The first one is, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Comparison is a thievery of joy.
Succinct, compelling, and so true.
Absolutely.
Second question. What's a book, TV show, movie that you feel like offers some valuable insights or inspiration for business leaders, for entrepreneurs? Where do you pull some inspiration from?
It's really interesting. I, long time ago, read a classic book by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yes, of course.
Now, that is, it's definitely a people pleaser kind of a book and how to become a people pleaser. But I did take some key tactics away that still live with me today. So it's an oldie, but it's a goodie, and I liked it.
It is a good one. Obviously, in my line of work, it's kind of one of those ones that you keep on the shelf. Do you have one that stands out? Do you have like one of your favorite tips?
Yes.
What is it?
Yes. So from in that book, there is a segment that talks about Abraham Lincoln. Mm-hmm. And he found out that in the Battle of the Potomac, I forget the general, Ulysses S. Grant, I believe it was. I could be wrong. Please don't quote me on that. But he did not capture the enemy. And Abraham Lincoln was at the White House in Washington and furious. And he's like, why wouldn't they capture him? They had the chance to. But so then he wrote this ferocious letter. But after he was done, he put it in his desk. Yeah. And then he walked to the window and he looked out and he said, you know what? I wasn't there. I didn't see the bloodshed. I did not see the war firsthand. I don't know what happened. So I have to figure out trust in my general to be able to understand why he made the decision. And I think that lesson is stuck with me because I believe that when you lead people, you really have to believe in them. When you choose the right people, to give them autonomy and to believe that the choices that they made, and you know what, sometimes people fail and that's okay. because then they're going to learn from the failures. And I always say, I'm not making that mistake again, you know? So I think there are a couple of hard lessons that you have to remember, but that one particular slice always stuck with me.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And the last question, what brings you joy?
People, my family, my friends, you, Abby, I just met her, but I love the human existence. I love everything that people are, and I believe in the good. And I think if you just love people up a little bit, they'll love you right back. And that does bring me joy.
That's great.
Yeah.
Rachel, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Connecticut loves you and you're loving us back. And it's just so exciting to see all the work you're doing. And if you guys are not connected with Rachel on LinkedIn, send her a message, follow their content. It's going to be an awesome summer here in Connecticut. Rachel's going to document all of it. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll see you out there.
Thank you.